want to introduce this session. But before that, I would ask Father Abraham to say just a word of welcome to all our guests.
Revered chants and distinguished guests and dear friends. I wouldn't take much of your time because following the dictum about the Aryan theology, which there was a time when he was known, I would say, I hope Father George will not get angry with me when if I say that. I will say for all of us, in our theological journey, if I want to say something about Father George, I would say that there was not a time when he was not. Action was always there for us. The reason that I was telling this is that Mr. Jyoti Sahi, as an artist theologian, has been introduced to us when we were reading Father George's silent books in 1997 when we were doing our second year theology in our seminary. But both of their friendship, if I'm informed correctly, it has gone back to late 1970s. So this evening is quite a blessing for all of us in getting organized. This is just a word of welcome to all of you, especially artist theologian Mr. Jyoti Sahi and our guest Mr. Bernard Kilroy. Thank you very much, and of course. And this evening has been organized jointly by Sarubia School of Arts and Sophia Theological Academy, and it goes without saying that both of these endeavors have been founded by Father George. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. I just want briefly to introduce our two guests. You know Dr. Bernard Kilroy. He is the well-known editor of this book, which we will discuss today, particularly the illustrations done by Jyoti Sahi. Sahi quotes from apostolic times. So not only he is showing it, but he has reduced the price for you particularly, and then he has given, how many books you got? Some 10?
Already 10.
Okay.
So you have to hurry, otherwise they will go.
Yes. He has terribly reduced the price to 200 rupees. It is a beautiful book. Some of you had been to Kurishamala Ashram, and I am sure none of you have seen Father Griffiths or Father Francis Ajarya, probably Francis Ajarya, because he died only a few years ago. They founded this ashram many years ago, probably 70 years ago, when it was just wilderness in that area. I remember as a theological student, as Secretary for Theological Association, I used to invite both Father Francis and Father Griffiths to talk to students in the seminary. I was at that time very fascinated by the writings of these two Benedictine priests, one from England and one from Belgium. So Father, you can call him Father.
Yes,
I have all respect. Yes, Dr. Bernard had been associated with Father Francis' writings. He did this beautiful translation for his own meditation. But now Bernard has edited it with commentaries, so that the whole thing has become a universal classic now, also Solomon, with the meditations. And he has done it wonderfully. He has the certificate of Dr. Sebastian Brock as well. So you can have this book. Thank you, Bernard, for coming and raising this occasion. Now our speaker today, Jyoti Sahi, as Father Ebi told us, our friendship goes back to probably more than quarter of a century. I was always impressed by not only his artistic work, but his theological writings. I think among the artists, he is unique in being able to write on art. So both the paintings as well as his writings inspired me a lot. That's I quoted many years ago one of my books. And Jyoti Sahi has already spoken to our students several years ago. He's a good friend of the seminary, and he visits Kottayam whenever it is possible. This time also, when I met him in Bangalore, he told me that he would come to Syrian meetings, so he organized this. Sopana is something very new, just for it's a Sanskrit word, Sopana means stepping stones. And Jyoti has a book under that title, he wrote many years ago, Stepping Stones. But Sopana as a stepping stone is particularly the stepping stones leading to the Holy of Holies. In a temple, Hindu temple, you have the sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, the Sri Holy. So these steps lead finally to the shrine, Holy of Holies. There is a music called Sopana music in India. So the musicians with the instruments, they stand on these stepping stones and play music in praise of gods or goddesses. They never enter the shrine. This is the idea also in Christian theology and Orthodox theology. Our historical life is on the Sopana, or the stepping stones. We never enter the Holy of Holies in a true metaphysical, ontological sense. We invoke the deity, we praise God, but we never enter the knowledge of God in its fullness. We stand on the stepping stones. So Sopana, on the stepping stones you deal with the history. You deal with all human suffering, all joy, everything. Whatever we experience in the world is also experienced and dealt with at the Sopana level. And Sarupya, of course, everybody knows that. Sarupya is likeness. We are created in God's image and likeness. Again, not only art, but all human affairs, including theology, has a task of achieving this likeness of God. That is our spiritual mission. We are on a journey and we acquire God's likeness. That is the ultimate vocation for us. So both Sarupya and Sopana are concerned with art and culture in a very broad sense. As I said yesterday at Siri, I would say that it's not systematic theology, but art in its various forms that gives you a glimpse of the knowledge of God. Systematic theology unfortunately fails. Academic theology hasn't given me any idea of God except some formulas and equations. But art has opened a new way, and I am very grateful that people like Jyoti Sahi have helped me a lot in that pilgrimage. So Jyoti, may I invite you to say a few words and also show the illustrations.
Thank you very much for your introduction.
I thought I should first of all explain a little bit about my own background so that you can understand the context of my work. My mother came to India, she was British, and she came to India in 1936, and she was in a small school in Udaipur, and she met my father, who was from Punjab, and they got married. So this background of having a Hindu father and a Christian mother, my mother came from a reformed form of Protestant background. They are called Unitarians, and the Unitarians have a close link with the Brahmos, the Brahmo Samaj. In fact, I believe that the Brahmo Samaj started in a Unitarian church in Calcutta. Anyway, my grandfather, who was a Unitarian preacher in England, he was very interested in Rabindranath Tagore and the whole Brahmo movement, and that is why my mother decided to come to teach in a school in India. And my father also came from a reformed group. They are called the Radha Swami sect, close to Sikhism. And in fact, again, my grandfather on his side was very religious, and he became a sannyasi. So this is a little bit to explain why, right from my childhood, I was very concerned about the relationship of Christianity to Hinduism. It was not just a kind of academic question. It was, who am I? Who am I? Who is a mixture of a Hindu and a Christian background. Well, that is why when I was studying art in England in 1959, I went, I heard of Bede Griffiths. He was giving a talk about his experience. He had written a book called Christian Ashram, and this was to try and explain why they had started Kurishmala. So he was talking about that in an abbey where he used to be the prior. And so I went to listen to him, and I was very impressed by this. I didn't know that there could be such a meeting point in India between a Christian background and a Hindu one. And he, I was young then, I wasn't even 20, I was 19, and he said, when you come back to India, come to our ashram. I was brought up in the north, in Dehradun, and so to come to Kerala at that time, I remember feeling very nervous. It was like going to another country. Anyway, I came in '64 and visited his ashram. And then I also met Francis Acharya. He had an idea that artists should live near to the ashram. The old icon painters, quite often, either they were monks or they could live near the ashram and be inspired by the contemplative life. Very early on, I thought maybe I should become a monk. He said, you will never make a monk. You're not the right type. So right from the beginning, he liberated me from that. So this is a background to explain to you. And I think at that time, in '64, I bought this book. This is the Poems of Kabir. You can see that it is rather well used and quite broken, but it is important for me because I brought it to Kurishmala, and in the kind of, there used to be satsangs, and each like to read some passages. This is by Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, translated into English, 100 poems of Kabir. These 100 poems are basically the collection which are in the Guru Granth Sahib. It's a little bit more than that, but perhaps you know that Guru Nanak was a disciple of Kabir, and he, sort of quite soon after Kabir died, Kabir himself was illiterate, and soon after he died, about 60 years after he died, Guru Nanak included the songs which he liked in the Guru Granth Sahib. So that is why it has a particular place in Sikhism, and from that also a connection with my own grandfather's faith. So it was important to me to understand this spirituality of Kabir. Now, when I went to Bangalore to work in the National Biblical Liturgical Center in Bangalore, that was in 1970, after being married to my wife. Father Bede married us. I became involved with the United Theological some of you I think have studied there. And in particular, there was a teacher there who is called Eric Lott. Should I? Oh, you are not hearing, sorry. Eric Lott. Now, Eric Lott, he did his doctoral work. He was a Methodist, but he did his doctoral work in the ideas of Ramanuja Acharya. And he felt that this was again a connection between Christianity and Hinduism. Now, one of the basic ideas of Ramanuja on which he built his whole philosophy, and which is a kind of central metaphor for the Sri Vaishnavites, is that the creation is the body of God. That it is that in the same way as our spirit is related to our body, so also God is related to creation. And he built his whole system on that, this modified dualism. Now, out of the discussions with Eric Lott, I had also the idea of starting an art ashram, and he was involved with that. And he said, maybe we can base our ideas on this kind of spirituality. Now, when I think probably, I can't remember exactly when, but it must have been in around 2010, when Bernard Kilroy came and visited me. He said that he was working on Francis Acharya's meditations. He had found these meditations, and he felt that an approach should be there to these meditations, which was not just scholarly. There were people, it has been translated and discussed a great deal, these odes which are from the 2nd century. But what Francis Acharya felt strongly about these odes was that they were not just meant for kind of intellectual exercise, but they were the basis of a spirituality. And he felt that they somehow linked with the poetic tradition of Saint Ephraim. Ephraim would have been later, but we don't know whether he actually was aware of these, but according to Father Francis, he felt that the poetic tradition of Saint Ephraim has much in common with the odes. So Bernard suggested that maybe I would illustrate some of these, make, I call them illuminations. In the old manuscript tradition, artists illuminated manuscripts. Illumination means to give light. Anyway, I thought that it would be interesting to look at these poems. And when I read them, I immediately thought of Kabir. So what I'm going to try and show to you, of course, this is just a beginning of a journey, because I think that it will take a lot of time to actually think, how do the odes of Solomon relate to the spirituality of Kabir? Kabir was himself a mixture. He was brought up as a Muslim, but he became very much taken up with the Bhakti tradition of Ramananda, and he asked to become a disciple of Ramananda, who also was interested to bring about a relationship between the spirituality of Bhakti, of devotion, and the Sufi tradition. So very early on, this mixture of Islam and Hinduism, it found a focus in Kabir's songs. Kabir is a bit like the the writer of Isaiah, he may not have been a person. He was more a school. A whole school has come up. There are, some people have calculated about 1,500 hymns of Kabir with his signature line, Kehte Kubir Suno Pe Sadhu. And that line is in many songs. But whether Kabir wrote it, that is a big question. But what is interesting about it is that it has a kind of unity. The ideas of Kabir have a unity. Now, the basic idea behind Kabir, and also I felt one could see that in the odes, was the notion of the cosmic body. There is a controversial hymn in the odes, which some people apparently find almost disgusting, apparently shocking. And that is, a cup of milk was offered to me, and I drank it in the sweetness and delight of the Lord. The Father is he who was milked, and the Holy Spirit is she who milked him, because his breasts were full. Now, people are surprised by this, because in a very patriarchal and male-dominated society, to understand, we say, our Father. Of course, even in the biblical tradition, there was the idea that Raham, also the idea of compassion, hesed, these were feminine attributes of God. And so we do have passages, even in the prophets, which speak about the breasts of God, or the kind of heart of God, you could say, the internal life of God. And so, quite earlier on in our art ashram, a lady artist who was with us, Lucy, she did a very big picture about God as mother. So this would have a kind of idea that he says the Father is he who was milked, but there is a kind of androgynous idea that he has a mother aspect. In fact, one of the mystics, Julian of Norwich, she had a whole reflection on the motherhood of Jesus. Jesus feeds us. We partake of the body of Jesus, and this is a typical mother idea. It is the baby who feeds on the mother, who drinks the milk. So the milk is part of the body of the mother, and it is in that sense that it is related also to the spirit. The spirit milked the Father. Now, I have done a lot on tribal art, and this here is an image coming from a tribal tradition of Mother Earth with the child in her womb, and this could be the full vessel of life. So Kabir also says, such pure ghee in the milk, without churning, how will the butter emerge? Such fire in the heart of the twig, without being struck, how will it ignite? The Guru comes and bows down before the disciple. This is the greatest wonder. Now, this particular idea was also important to me. A person who was a kind of guru for me was a man called Frank Wesley. His father was a musician in Lucknow, who became a Christian, and he took, because he was converted by Methodists, he took the name Wesley. But he went to art school in Lucknow, and his teacher, famous artist called Bireshwar Sen, when he was teaching him, he said, you are a Christian, aren't you? Why don't you paint this extraordinary picture of Jesus washing the feet of his disciple? This is very interesting for us, that the Guru should wash the feet of the disciple. So I myself, Frank Westfield also told me the story, and I have painted this scene where the disciple and the Guru have a similar face. They are the same person, actually. And that is somehow also related to the whole notion of participation. The disciple participates in the life of the Guru. I think this was an important idea of Gregory of Nyssa, also participation. It was also Mar Gregorius speaks much of participation. It is the symbol of it is in the same way as iron, which is put into fire, becomes fire. So also the disciple put into God becomes God. This is the idea of participation. And I have been told by Hindu friends that bhakti means participation. Unless I wash you, you can have no part in me. So here I have also taken the idea of the birthing of the Lord. The womb of the Virgin caught it and received conception, and she brought forth, and the Virgin became mother with great love. So that kind of, she also participates in this whole salvation event. And so this particular picture which I have here, she is the ghata, the pot in which the spirit, it's a coconut, the divine spirit. This is, you know that at the time of Onam and also Makara Sankranti, they have a pot and they put a coconut in it. So this is the coconut which is Christ placed in the pot of Mary. So this kind of spirituality related, I felt, to the whole idea of a cosmic cross. I think the first time that I came to spend time with Father Jacob Dekeporampel about, that must have been 20 years ago, he took me around various churches and we had a discussion on the cosmic cross. Cosmic cross is the idea, a non-figured cross, in which the cross itself is not only related to the suffering of Jesus, but it is the basis, you could say, of time and space. We have the idea that all space has points of the compass, and these are 4 points. And so the whole of creation is the cross. The cross is the tree of life. And so here in this cross, I have tried to represent fire, earth, water, air, all coming together in the cross. I stretched out my hands and approached my Lord. For the stretching of my hands is his sign. My stretching out is the outspread tree which was set up on the way of the righteous one. So it is another of the oaths. So again, I felt that this kind of cosmic spirituality, he took me to his paradise where the Lord's delight is abounding. This is one of the illustrations here. It is related, this painting on this side is an early picture which I did and gave it to my mother actually, of Christ as the pomegranate. He is in his womb, you could say, the souls of the dead. In fact, I did this as a tabernacle for a church in Trivandrum. The idea that Christ is the pomegranate. So taking that theme, I also did this illustration, which is in black and white in the book, in which again this whole idea of the pomegranate, which was a symbol used very much by the Jews. It was there in the temple. It is related very much to, I see from the notes of Bernard, that it is also related probably to the fruit which Adam took from the tree of life, or the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It was important to also in myths the pomegranate tree. In this vessel, gardens and groves, in this the grower of gardens, and yet you search the darkness. Says Kabir, listen seekers, in this my Guru, and yet you, in this my Guru, and yet you search the darkness. So in this vessel, which has all this plenty, this is the garden. The garden. The garden is in my body. And that was a favorite theme of Kabir, and something which has always impressed me, especially when I did work on the Song of Songs, where again this theme of the garden in Engedi, it becomes a symbol of paradise. Clay said to the potter, "You may need me now, true, but a day shall surely come when I will be needing you." Needing is, when you, a potter, like kneading bread. This word means, when you press it. So one day, the earth says, "I will be needing you also." Wood said to the ironsmith, "You may burn me, true, but a day shall surely come when I will be burning you." So this kind of theme, again, this is from Kabir, the idea of participation, that it is very much close to what a poet and philosopher called Bachelard. He talks about material imagination. That was an important idea of his. That we think our images are through materials, our clay, wood. I am very fond of also carving in wood. Even my woodcuts are in wood. And I am also interested in pottery. So the working with material is itself the imagination. The imagination is not something up in the clouds. The imagination is a dialogue with materials. So Kabir himself, he was a weaver, and many of his poems are about weaving. There is a whole book I have of Kabir's poems about weaving. He takes even the word sutra, which can mean a poetic word, is also a thread. So Kabir often refers to the poems as weaving, and in a sense what I'm trying to do is weave together Kabir's poetry with the odes. And on the right-hand side, I was very impressed by a tapestry, and that again is something woven, which was made by Raphael. And you see that Christ, this is the risen Christ, and this is Peter, and those are the sheep, and he is wearing the universe. His clothes are the sun and the moon. It's similar to what Sebastian Brock also deals with in one of his works called The Luminous Eye, the robe of glory. It is very much coming in the poems of, also in the odes, but also in Ephraim. My home is pulled up and removed like a shepherd's tent like a weaver, you have rolled up my life, you cut it from the loom. That's from Isaiah. Finely woven is this cloth that was its, what was its warp, what its weft, woven with the subtle thread. That cloth was worn by God, saviors and men. They wrapped it and got it dirty. Kabir, humble slave, wore it with care. He shed it as clean as the day he got it. So again and again, Kabir talks about spirituality in terms of clothes. He felt clothes are very spiritual. He is risen and he is with us. Actually, this is a batik which I made and gave to Father Francis. And so it is actually a Jain figure, a Tirthankara, who crosses over the way, and there it is a kind of Jesse tree on the right hand side. From his navel, Padmanabha, so from his navel comes the Christ is coming, and so Christ is also born from this pot, this khati, and these are his disciples. So this was a batik. I don't know what condition it is in now, but apparently it was in the room of Father Francis. So again, the first ode is, "Thou art a bridal crown on my head, it caused thy branches to blossom in me." I have taken the idea that the head itself is like a tree. It's like it blossoms. On the right-hand side, I did a picture of a sacred grove. It was near Shantiniketan, near to Tagore's place. It was a Santali sacred grove, and there the grove itself is a head. I don't know if you can see it, but it is meant to be a head. The head is itself like a sacred grove. Here again is another of the odes. "As a breeze blows through the harp, and the Spirit speaks through my limbs." Again, Kabir would say, "In this body the lock, in this body the key, in this body the one who opens the door." I painted it's an early picture again of mine, where Christ is holding the cross, and these are the 9 moves, Rasas around him, and the cross is itself a tambura. He is holding the cross, which is a musical instrument. In fact, this was again the theme of Kabir. He said, "This body is a splendid tambura. Tighten the strings, twist the pegs, and it sings the song of the Lord." Kabir. So it is a bit, Vidya Rao, who is a great singer, she says it's a bit like the murli, flute. The gopis are always jealous of the murli because it is always on Krishna's lips. It allows the prana of Krishna to always play on it because it is empty. It allows for the shunya within it, that space for the divine to be, for the guru to be, for the shabd to be. We are the flute. That wonderful breath plays within us. So here, whether it is the harp, whether it is the flute, whether it is the tambura, we are ourselves a musical instrument. The Lord is a mirror to us. Let us open our eyes and see ourselves in it. Again, I developed this idea that she is looking into, this is the Samaritan woman. She sees herself in the well, she sees the image of herself, and her meeting with Jesus is a moment of self-discovery. So I painted also Jesus at the well based on this idea of the woman at the well who is thinking, who is reflecting. Just today there was a talk about the iconography of early Syrian iconography, and the person who was speaking about it, especially about Mary, said she is always thinking. In many of the pictures, she is meditating, and in temples, she has her finger on this point between the bindu, because she is finding herself. She is discovering herself. So again, I have tried to connect this with many ideas in Kabir as a dreamer who is beside a well. O seeker, I saw the tamarind tree. The tree is blooming with fish all over it. I saw fish climb up into a tree. Wave turned as big as an ocean. A blind man claimed to see. Says Kabir, listen, seekers, a rare one found this path. One who searches this way reaches heaven's heart in his own body. So it is a kind of upside, they call it ulat bansi, upside language. It is almost surrealistic in that it is a dream language. Kabir is dreaming. And I thought that that could also relate with various images which are to be found in the odes, which seem to me very surrealistic. Here is a very surrealistic ode, ode 23. His design came like a letter. It was sent like an arrow from a bow. An arrow shot with force. A wheel received it, and it rested on it. With it was a sign of kingly rule. It's almost, it's very similar to the Ulat Bansi of Kabir. How to understand it? It cannot be understood rationally. Again, it's a bit like the whole question of the father having breasts. It is upside down language. It's a mysterious language, and that is the only way in which we can understand the divine mystery. So Christ is a cosmic dancer. I have very often taken this theme of Christ walking on the waters, asking again Peter to jump out and to reach out to him, and Peter nearly drowned. So this theme of Christ as a dancer, dancing on the water, also relates again with one of the last odes. On all sides the waves were lifted up, but the footsteps of our Lord stand firm. So again and again, actually, in this image comes quite often in the odes, that God walks on the tehom, the depths. The depths are also the word, the Sheol. He walks on Sheol. He goes down into the underworld. Bernard sent me a picture which is from the 13th or 14th century, Christ on a ladder, going up on a ladder. I have done many works about Christ climbing a ladder, but I will not go too much into that. So it's this relationship to water, again, material culture, where water has a great meaning. I put on the love of the Lord, the members of his body are with him, and he embraces me, he loves me vehemently. I love the beloved vehemently, truly I love him. And where his rest is, there also I am. I am mingled with him, for the lover has found the beloved. This is again an ode which it is vehemently Father Francis stressed, because it is used also in the Song of Songs. My eyes a room, pupils a bed adorned. I have dropped the curtain of my lashes, and there delight my Lord. Heart in heart, eyes lost in eyes, now one heart, one seeing. Says Kabir, listen seekers, awareness meets the beloved. So this is, again, I felt very much a theme of love in the Bhakti tradition. And that is also how it is understood in the odes about baptism. Baptism is a entry of Christ into the waters. He descends into the waters. This is again the whole theme, where he is not just water, but he goes down into the waters. Subtler than smoke, subtle are the illusions, the mask, subtle the awareness, the insights, subtle the fabric of body cells, subtle the sounds within. Everyone knows the drop in the ocean. The rare one knows the ocean in the drop. So again, a mysticism of it. Kabir says, "Oh brother, behold, the Lord is in this vessel of my heart." And then he comes very much to our spirit must praise his Holy Spirit. It is called the Hamsa. In Kabir, it says, Hamsa is, I am that. Tatvam asya Hamsa. Inspired, this has inspired me the notion of the bird, of the Hamsa. I went up into the light of truth as in a chariot. So it's a kind of bird which carries the soul into the other world. This is a picture I did of the Hamsa. I placed myself on his wings, incorruptible. From him is the spirit which is in me. I cannot die because it is life. The wings of the spirit which go above the earth. And that brings us to another theme very much in the odes of the nest. As the wings of doves over their nestlings and the beaks of their nestling over their beaks, so too are the wings of the Spirit over my heart. Much could be said about this bird imagery in both in Kabir in relation to the Hamsa and also in the Song of Songs. So, in the Odes of Solomon. So I conclude with this. On this tree is a bird. It dances in the joy of life. Where the branches throw a deep shade, there does it have its rest. Kabir says, "O brother Sadhu, deep is the mystery. Let wise men seek to know where rests that bird."
I would say it is not an appropriate time for discursive reasoning or discussion or debate, but a time for meditation, because these pictures, together with the poems of Kabir and quotations from the odes, they have given us a wonderful time of meditation, and we should continue that. I have read a little bit of Kabir, but it's now that I see the profundity of his poetic, mystical writings. Still, since you are students, and Jyoti is with us, he may also raise some of your questions or clarification as well.
Is also related to the body. Dancing is very much body, and especially in tribal cultures, dance is very important. So, in fact, there is another work which is probably the same time as the Odes, which is called the Acts of John. It is an apocryphal work, and it is said in the Acts of John that Jesus at the Last Supper, he called the disciple and said, "Come, dance with me. I am the Lord of the dance." Those are the words. And there is a hymn, a song, a Christian song about "I am the Lord of the dance," and he. You have heard of that? It is a popular song. So this, of course, has relationship also to me, because my own daughter, she has studied dance, and the theme of dancing has been related to Shiva. He is also called Nataraja, Lord of the Dance. But it is not only Shiva. Shiva probably takes up a primordial theme which is to be found in tribal culture and so on, where the drum and the dancer is very important. This, in fact, even Augustine talks about pericois, the chorus who go round, because in the old Greek theatre the chorus used to go round. So he says the Trinity. So I think that this theme of dancing is a good connection again with many ideas of Hinduism.
I think also you should connect it with the resurrection, because the risen Christ is in a dancing posture. You know, the major problem of our body, or the character of the body, is that it is weighed down by the pull of gravity, always weighed down. But the risen Christ is actually violating that pull of gravity and is rising lightly. And the bird image is also very close to that. The Holy Spirit is portrayed as a bird. A bird also can go against gravity in a very smooth, elegant way. So I think these dance forms always reminds me of resurrection of the risen Christ. Painting and mystical intuition or mystical experience that right here.
I have often been asked what is the nature of Christian art. I feel that it's not just a question of painting Christ. It's a question of having a kind of spirituality, a sadhana, which should underlie. And that was with the icon painters. They saw it as a spiritual way, a spiritual journey. And so for me, even in working on these designs, thinking about the relationship, all the time when I was reading the odes, I was also thinking about Kabir, because I belong to something which is called the Kabir Project, Kabir Satsang. And that has been very important to me. So even in choosing the passages from the odes, I was always thinking of Kabir. So it is this kind of bringing a spiritual dimension to art expression. I think that is what is important, not just art as skill or technique, but art as a spiritual journey, like you were saying, on stepping stones.
The Syrian liturgy which we celebrate, I am reminded of this posture of dancing, especially when you give peace. You can give peace in different ways. You can just throw peace to the people even without telling, But actually, if Jyoti can draw the lines, because your body slightly turns to the west, and your hands, it hovers over the holy elements, like that, and then it comes like that, and then it goes like that. So if you make a little drawing of that, it's a beautiful rhythmic, it's very poetic, and it would be in a dance posture, So in the liturgy we do a lot of it, but of course there are priests who do like that, or do like that. It is shooting, not actually giving peace. And I hope you will discover some of these things in this book edited by Bernard, because the writer has really captured the mystical, poetic, the artistic elements as well. If you have anything more to share,
I just need to appreciate especially this art because as I've studied iconography and the problem with icons is that we have limited ourselves and we cannot go beyond certain things. But in this Christian art, it has gone beyond certain things which are very easy to relate. But certain times, because of our faith order, we are limited to ourselves. Like I like the painting of the pomegranate, which has pomegranate itself, which I never thought about. So it's about the soul. So it's something which has attracted me totally. And now I think that whenever I see that fruit, it will relate to me with Jesus. So it is something that's a creation of God, which can be related to us back in getting the knowledge about what the creation of God is, that He has put up His own concept. Thank you.
So I would like to ask you, if resurrection is going against the principle of gravity, what about incarnation and epiclesis? Is that working along with gravity?
I think that is what's interesting about this dancing on the water.
Yeah.
And Peter almost sinking because he went down. The gravity pulled him into the water. And Jesus goes down into the Tehom. In fact, there's a whole talk I could discuss this theme by George Suarez, who was the money aspect of this story is that the Christ walking on the waters is not just a miracle, it is Him going against the storm, going against the problems of life, and inviting His disciples to overcome that storm. That's the bloody.
The epiclesis, Achan said that the Holy Spirit is actually coming down. But the Holy Spirit is not falling down, you know. I was in Korea last week and we were in a 500-acre monastery of the Confucian tradition. Very beautiful, wonderful. And we were introduced to Confucianism by a traditional philosopher who knew no English but spoke only Korean. And then he spoke about yin and yang, you know, the Tao, the symbol of yin and yang, male and female, and combining all the dualities into one. And then we came out of that monastery after 2 sessions with the philosopher. While coming out, we were going through valley in a bus, and then both sides you have the green mountains. Then I suddenly saw a seagull, you know, kadalkaka, ഇങ്ങനെ ഒറ്റയ്ക്ക് പറന്നു പോകുന്നത്. അത് സാധാരണ കാണുന്നത്. ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് കാക്ക പറക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് താഴോട്ട് തരികയില്ല. Actually, it is playing with air. It is playing with the whole world. അതൊരു play, a dancer. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഈ ഹോളി സ്പിരിറ്റ് കാണിക്കുമ്പോൾ അത് ആക്ച്വലി ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ഫോളിങ്. Falling in the gravitational pull on the side of the contribute to the video. It is playing. That's why I can do. Our Adi Andhara and then Shudharma. Everyone thinking of the you are a good dancer who have trained hands and fingers. Can be very elegant. So that movement is actually playing with air, playing with the atmosphere, playing with the whole creation. It's a very joyful gesture.
That was the idea behind this painting, which is the It's a mountain there, and the bird is this movement which is going over the mountain. And here is water below with the fishes in the water, but this coming together of the movement of the bird, the movement of the fishes, and the mountain in the middle.
Yes, it's very beautiful. Yes, I think it just captured what he said. Yes.
Reverend Archons, Jyoti Ji, and Reverend Bernard. I take this opportunity to just make a formal thank you to everybody here. Personally speaking, it was not cup of my tea because I'm not that good at art or aesthetic sense. But then I think it was so productive, and on behalf of everyone present here and Super Academy, I thank you for sharing your findings, and also the director, K. George, the organizer, EBHL, and the rest of everyone here. Thank you, everyone.